getting pretty dark, so I didn't get too many good pictures from my phone. Bunch of old server racks, which I had fun exploring through. Nice giant Tesla coil that someone built and just left in the corner. This is probably a decent picture of just how far along it is, and this is just the air-conditioned side of it. The whole main, fabrication, large heavy machinery, non-air conditioned, about the same amount of space, and they've been built upstairs. They were actually, it wasn't air conditioned for the most part, but they were pretty much getting paying a little bit cheaper to make the place air conditioned, and so of course if they ever had to leave, they went through it. They would leave the insulation and such there. This one's been around for about 4 years, I believe they said. They started out in a spot, 500-600 square feet, and then they went to another one, 2,000-3,000, and then they had the room and money, and then they grew towards it. So you don't usually start out with a giant space like this unless you have too much money. And there's the eBay scanning electron microscope, which I know I'd do nothing with it, but if I saw it on eBay, I'd probably get it too, assuming I had a space for it or a really nice wife. That latter, not so much. I think it's a little big. But they were printing, they had some weird castle thing they're printing. So they had it would print automated custom castle designs with the printer. And that was where most people were hanging out, talking, building stuff. There's the laser cutter, more of the scans, and did I go through all of them? Oh yeah, there's the finished product there of the random castle, and the riprap I mentioned here on the side. As I mentioned, they have a barbecue, so they had a giant kitchen actually. That was probably the most furnished spot they had. They just somehow got granite for free from someone, put it in the cabinets with a giant fridge. And kitchen's actually just to the right of this picture. That's another hangout area. I really wish this was in Tampa. Let's see if I can get any of the...
That's in Texas, right?
Yeah, that was in Houston, Texas.
They actually have money.
Yeah. And all my other pictures of the non-air conditioned side was where it got even darker, so can't even stop taking pictures. But they had a bicycle section about the size of this room with tools and half it filled up with random bikes for parts or whatever to do with them. Does anyone have any particular questions? I know I've just been kind of rambling and be like, haha, this is kind of like my vacation photos I've been doing with my family this week. But
You went to all those places this week?
not this week, no. Just over the last year, roughly. A little bit longer than that, yeah. Just work. I think I've hit 25,000 miles with Delta alone this year, and did the same about last year. And when we were starting to look into starting our own, hey, I'm traveling, might as well check them out.
You want to talk about what's going on here?
Yes, I did that earlier.
Okay.
Again, Makerspace Tampa Bay, I believe it was.
Hackerspace now.
Sorry?
They just changed the name.
To Hackerspace?
Hackerspace Tampa Bay.
Oh, nice.
The entity's name is Inspiration Labs.
Yes.
The Facebook group, I think, is Hackerspace Tampa Bay as of last name.
Well, I was mentioning the website, makerspacetampabay.org, although Inspiration Labs, I kind of like the name. It's why I go there, why I like the other places, because you get to talk and think of other random ideas.
It sounds a lot better on an application to become a nonprofit than Hackerspace too.
Yeah. If anyone is traveling and wanted to look up places, of course Google works, but hackerspaces.org is probably the best site to go to. They have just huge maps with different places showing up and different people wanting to start their own. It's the way to go. Any other questions or anything else?
Wait, I mentioned Mosey at the bottom. It's not our Mosey, is it?
That is this is in Tampa. This is the one I mentioned earlier. So Mosey does have. Has anyone actually been to Mosey yet? They have such weird hours. I haven't gone there myself.
There was a Python group meeting there the other day. I was just there.
Mosey has like a mini makerspace, but because it's only open during Mosey hours, and I don't even think it's full Mosey hours. One of the things Inspiration Labs, since they don't have their own space yet, is offering extended hours for that. Unfortunately, with Mosey, and Brian might be able to be more precise, they don't really have their own section. It's just like almost what would be exhibit at Mosey. So they can't have their own security. They can't make it 24 hours without.
I think there is I think there is a specific area with some specific rooms that are their workshop space, but it's not, like you said, it's not something that they can set up for people to just key card in or something.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Yeah, I assume you have to go through the front doors to get there, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Most of the places have key cards, and a lot of different maker spaces. You would have different levels. You could pay for just wanting to, almost all of them were open as long as someone was there. If there was a member there willing to invite people in or to watch a random person walking in, you could come in effectively. And there were a lot of maker spaces like for $20 a month, you're just there to help them out. You don't have your own key at that point, but you get to free hours and you get to do the training to use the nice tools. Where 30, 40, 50, depending on where it was, you got your own access, you get to go whenever you want, get to invite people in and have control of it. And then certain other levels from there depending on whatever they can hopefully sell. So if that is it, now that we've got everyone here, well, I'll let Tech Systems take over.
One more thing, I guess these guys are trying to build membership now, so if you think you might be interested, $20 for a month, help them build a membership base. And I know right now at 6 o'clock today they were doing an Arduino class at Mosey. So I was hoping we might be able to get some kind of crossover stuff going on with that.
Yeah.
Between that and Slack.
Definitely. Same, especially everything else. That's pretty easy. You have something? All right. Ready to
So
go
now let's
on?
introduce the people that have the people here that actually are prepared.
Yes.
Before we go too far, am I the only one in here who's hot?
Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah, that's what
It's
the
really hot
ladies in
in
the
here.
restaurant say.
Is it possible to,
No, the AC turns off at that.
We'll be quick.
Our office, our corporate building does that too. I have no idea why. At 5:30 they shut.
well, it's because the bosses go home at 5:30.
It's
Probably.
Well, obviously, thanks for having us. Thanks, Will. Next time I know we'll definitely bring more food. I'm Ryan. This is my partner Drew. So we work for a company locally, Tech Systems. I'm not sure like how many of you have heard of us. We focus primarily on, I guess, within IT on the application side. So I'm sure just going through this, it looks like maybe some of you are more in the embedded development. We primarily focus on the application development. And obviously like the servers and the architectures and data centers, things of that nature. We do have a sister company, Aerotech, that focuses more on the embedded. So really what we wanted to cover is just a little bit about our company, what we cover, what we see local to the IT market, and then really open it up to Q&A about some of the frustrations that you guys see if you guys are actively looking in the market. Maybe some of the best practices as far as like interviewing techniques, resume writing, because that's something we interact with hiring managers on a daily basis. So any advice that we can give you.
I would say most people here are probably involved in normal application IT.
Yeah.
It's just like embedded stuff's like fun,
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, exactly. So that's great because that's what we focus on. So a little bit of, how many are you familiar with Tech Systems as a company?
A little bit.
All right, so a little bit. So a little bit of background on our company. We have about, in the United States, 100 offices nationwide. Here in Tampa, we focus anything as far east as Lakeland, as far south as Sarasota, Fort Myers, and obviously Hillsborough, Pinellas County. In the last 3 years, in the last 2 years rather, we've placed consultants at over 150 clients locally. Obviously, like it's no secret, Tampa's primarily a Microsoft hub. It's not really any secret, but we do see a lot of clients, I guess recently, starting to move over to Linux. Obviously, some of the glaring reasons, security reasons, licensing costs with Microsoft. compatibility with updates between Microsoft and Linux. Linux is much more consistent with their updates, being smooth integrations, things like that. As far as what we do and with our clients and the way we've been able to grow is that we truly try to leverage partnerships, and that's both on the consultant side, interacting with individuals such as yourselves who are active, you're even passively looking, just wondering what's out there, and then obviously on the manager side, truly understanding what their business needs are, their initiatives, and truly why that person needs this resource, as opposed to getting a call from a recruiter saying, hey, I got a Linux admin job, a Linux engineering job, are you looking for a job? And that's pretty much it. We truly try to leverage relationships and truly understand what's important to you from personally and professionally. So we do, I'll let Drew kind of cover a couple of the clients that we do see, skill sets now, and then kind of leave it up to Q&A as well.
So we've been seeing a lot of opportunities as far as focus within Red Hat as a flavor. We see those constantly. A couple of the companies, just off the top of our head, one would be Vitera recently. It's a healthcare company. They provide proprietary software to help manage electronic medical records to hospitals throughout the Tampa Bay area. And then also a company by the name of the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, which if you're familiar with capital markets, they do all of the IT clearing for all the capital markets up in New York. So they clear about 13 million trades a day, about $1 trillion worth of trades. And they set up in New Tampa. Those are some of the major ones recently that we've seen. I know Ryan wants to talk about Serve.
Yeah, DTCC. Are any of you guys familiar with that company?
Yeah, I'm like 5 miles from here.
Okay. So we've worked with them probably since 2008, and we've probably placed anywhere from 60 to 80 consultants out there. So that's one of our larger clients. Obviously, they're a huge Linux shop because of the nature of their work. It's highly secure. So we've had a position recently for a Linux architect that they're actually continuously expanding out there. So they needed an individual to help all the way from the server side all the way up to the GUI as well. I think GNOME was a tool that they utilized pretty heavily out there. Serve Enterprises over in downtown St. Pete, American Express. I guess they officially merged. It used to be called Serve, now it's American Express. We see a lot of Linux admins out there as well. In the past, we've worked with them for the past 2 years. We've probably placed 3 or 4 admins out there, primarily focused within Red Hat. And in our partnership with them, overall, we've placed over 100 people in the past 2 years. And those have all been contracts or individuals that have ideally gone perm after their initial. Some of the other clients right off the top of our heads are Cineverse, right by DTCC as well. They focus in telecom. So one of the things that they do is, if you think back in the day, there used to be a lot of roaming charges. The reason you don't see that anymore is that they have a software that tracks exactly how, like if I'm a Sprint customer but I'm using an AT&T tower, they have software that tracks how long I'm actually using AT&T's data, so that way AT&T can in turn bill Sprint for it. So that's one of the one of the things that they support. The list goes on and on for them, but that's a company that we've done work in for the past 1.5 years or so. And Chico's, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the retail store, Chico's White House Black Market. It's primarily focused with women. That's probably why I didn't hear of it until they were one of our customers. But they're down in Sarasota, and they're a huge Linux shop as well. We've placed a couple individuals down there. So like I said, it's the reason we really wanted to reach out is because as Tampa continues to grow from an IT perspective, we're seeing the percentage go towards the Linux favor. It still is primarily Microsoft. It probably will be for a while, but there are a lot of financial organizations in the Tampa Bay area that have huge IT. Raymond James is obviously one over there, but there's a lot of companies here that, as this becomes more of an obvious solution, they're going to be a lot more needs. So it was best to just introduce ourselves and kind of see. I'm not sure if some of you guys are actively looking what you're seeing on the market, but definitely wanted to give you guys the opportunity to open it up, questions and answers, and like I said, specific to opportunities, specific to some of the things that you guys see out there, and how we may be able to assist you and leverage, getting opportunities out there.
Anybody have any questions?
So there has to be some.
Brian?
I actually had several questions.
Spread them out.
Great.
Viterra,
Yeah.
do they have any dev positions open that at this time?
Right now, today?
Yeah,
Not that we've seen, no.
okay.
There's that main Red Hat admin position that obviously we kind of got you involved with,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, right now, no.
Okay, I know a couple people who were looking,
Mhm.
and thought that might be something. that they-
Yeah, and the way it works, obviously, companies release positions to vendors before they release them kind of on their website a lot of times. So, if you do know people, if you have people that you want to refer, it's always something where I'll reach out to them or Ryan will reach out to them and really just kind of figure out what you're looking for. We take a very consultative approach. It's not something where we only call people for positions like Ryan said. Obviously, Brian's obviously a great example of that because we've been working together for I think 2 months now. So
Months,
yeah, but it's something where we build those partnerships, and in that way, when we find that perfect opportunity, we're able to reach out and really, you guys know who we are, and can kind of at least have an idea of us and the way we work.
And like you said, another thing, people that right now are actively looking. One of the ways that we try to differentiate ourselves is be a little proactive. Like he said, there's positions out there that they'll release to us before releasing to whatever. There's positions out there that are pending HR approval, pending final budget, whatever the case may be. And they'll sit there in a queue, or what they call a vendor management system. This happens when you apply for a position, you don't hear back for 6 months, or you don't hear back, period. Because your resume gets sent to what's called a VMS, a vendor management tool. It literally sits there in queue until someone goes in there, requests the resumes, and you're just unaware of what happened. So one of the things we try to alleviate that is being a little proactive. So if you do know people who are actively looking, we can send their information over to some of those, depending logistically what they're looking for, we can send that information to the hiring managers that we know and say, hey, we know historically you've hired these positions. How's your team looking as far as resources, and you anticipating needs? Because IT unemployment in Tampa is less than 2%. So to find someone who's qualified and actually meets the requirements that the client's looking for, if they're just waiting HR approval or final funding stamp of whatever the case may be, they'll push a little more if they know that there's a qualified candidate waiting in the wings. So that's something we can definitely do if they are looking.
So the vendor management system's the reason why you apply for something and you don't hear back from them? for
There's a
weeks
lot.
and weeks
What
and
happens
months?
is, like, you may hear back from HR and they'll send you a generic auto-generated email, whatever.
If you're
That's
lucky.
just if you're lucky. That's a tool that literally resumes just sit in until the hiring manager requests to see more. And most of the time what happens is, even when they'll, publicize a position, they already have someone in mind for the opportunity. So they'll never request those positions.
Right.
So that's why it'll sit there for months, years. And then, if, let's say, that person 6 months later decides to leave and they know that they were working on it, then they may say, hey, whoever applied to that position 6 months ago, open it up, and then they'll get those resumes. So I'm not sure if any of you guys have literally gotten calls 6 months after applying to a position. That's why. It sits there in a queue, and then whatever the case may be, they'll open it up.
Yeah, but it's for places like USF. They're really slow. I thought your job was to make that process quicker.
Yeah.
It is, and that's one of the reasons that we kind of are here, is basically we push along that process by utilizing and leveraging some of the relationships that we have with hiring managers. Obviously, we see some vendor management positions as well, but the majority of all of our opportunities are going to be directly from the hiring manager, where we've built that relationship, and then we can go in and say, hey, we've done our kind of vetting by meeting this person and done any technical screens, assessments, things like that. Here's why we think he's a great fit, and then they'll push the process a little bit.
Like
forward.
what I just said, there's usually someone that's
Yeah.
already in line for the position.
Right.
That's someone that usually goes around the system as far as interacting with, certain companies that are preferred vendors. Because although we're not technical to a certain degree, we're the ones that been able to build a relationship with the hiring manager. So we're, like he said, we have various stages of relationships with clients. Some clients, like I said, DTCC and American Express, they primarily come to us. To place over 100 consultants in 2 years, that's actually really good. So they come to us primarily. There's other ones that, unfortunately, sometimes we do have to play that game. But the way that, like you said, come to us to expedite it is because we, gone to them proactively, come up with the need before they came to us, and that's when they'll put that queue, I guess, the VMS on hold, because they already know they want to interview our candidate, because they don't have to read through resumes, sort through 100 resumes. We go up there and say, hey, here's John Smith, here's his resume, here are 2 references. We conduct references on everybody before we submit them. We meet with everyone before we submit them. We do technical assessment tests. We get you on the phone with one of our hired consultants, and we go to the hiring manager with all that information and saying, hey, here's John, here's your guy, and this is why. I know I'm not technical. I'm only a technical recruiter. I understand the key words, but I can't vouch for you. It's your managers, your previous managers, these assessment tests and things like that try to expedite that.
Do you have any small plans, like 15 people or less?
We do have a few more like small, and the companies themselves aren't really small, but the IT departments are usually pretty small. We usually, the majority of our clients know, because staffing companies aren't cheap to the end client. So ones that maybe have a team of 10 to 15 all of IT, they'll kind of go the route of posting the resume on Career Builder, seeing who applies, and then if it becomes a true need that they just need that resource in place or it's detrimental to the company, then they'll come to us. So we do have a few clients here and there, but for the most part, obviously just due to financial reasons, it's mostly the larger companies that are willing to pay the money, because they know that the detriment, if they don't have that resource in place, is going to far outweigh the cost by using staffing providers.
Do you have a question?
What languages and frameworks seem to be the most popular for development positions?
Probably the biggest one's obviously Red Hat, Linux, or SUSE, Ubuntu. Trying to think. Those would be the main ones that we see.
Would those be mostly for Java development, or?
No, I mean, are you talking, what kind of development are you?
The languages like PHP, Java.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, LAMP stack obviously is going to be your big development languages. Those are the main ones we see. So we've seen a lot of PHP recently.
And obviously, outside of Oracle, it's, like I said earlier, it's definitely Microsoft Town. So a lot of the companies out there still predominantly .NET, but we are seeing quite a few that are going into open source, primarily PHP, and then also a lot of Java as well. And that's just full gamut back end, all with J2E.
Potentially you probably see some Ruby out there.
Every once in a while, a couple Ruby positions, but those aren't too prevalent. So like with the open source tools, obviously, the skills have to match the exact environment of the company. And then when you just start, mixing and matching open source, the chances of lining up all those are slim to none. So if we do have a couple clients that do have that mix of, I guess, open source technologies that they don't really focus on if you have that exact match. It's more about more intellectual capacity to go in and pick it up. So